This is a video tutorial on how to sew a breast cup dress. So you can do well to watch my previous video on how to pattern draft it. So I folded the interfacing fabric into two and the lining as well, meaning that we're going to be having two parts for the left and the right side. So what I'm cutting right now is the top part of the breast cup because it's a 3-part breast cup. So this is the center back panel that I'm cutting right now. So this is where the zip will be positioned at. Also, this is the side back panel. So if you notice, these panels are for the left side. I've kept away the right side because we don't need it right now. So this is for the lower parts of the breast cup. Cutting the other side, as you can see. And then so just cut exactly the same measurements. So this is the center front and you can see it's actually on fold. So you want to do well to make sure that you position yours on fold. That's on the folded edge of the interfacing and the lining. So now this is the side front panel. This is half of the front panel. So from center front to center back. And now if I bring in the right panels, this is how it's going to look like. This interfacing will be ironed to the main fabric. So this is the lining to be sewn separately. And this is how it should be positioned exactly like this. So all of them have interfacing. So now I would iron this interfacing to the main fabric. So I've done that already and I'm going to be stitching the darts. So that's what you want to do, the left dart and the right darts. And we'll be doing that for this front panel and for the back panel as well. It has been neatly sewn, and that's exactly what you want to do, the left and the right dart. So we need to iron it. Each time you sew, try and iron so that your sewing is neat. So we are merging the back darts together. This is for the left side. So you can start with whichever one. You can start from the left or the right. Just make sure that you're merging the darts together. So we're merging the other one together as well, the other darts. So the notched area is the nipple point. Make sure you align it properly. That's for the bottom part of the breast cup. Merge it together. So you have to measure based on the measurement, the allowance you gave when you were drafting the pattern. So if you notice, I have labeled all the panels so that I don't join the wrong sides together. Now we have to merge, we have to align it properly with the center point of the top of the breast cup as well. You can see what I'm doing. I'm aligning it. So that's why when you pattern drafting, do well to watch that how to pattern draft a breast cup dress properly so you know what you're doing. So now merging it together like so. Give it a nice press. We're going to merge the darts area of the lining, just exactly what we did on the main fabric itself. We're going to do that for the lining as well. We're typically doing exactly what we did for the main fabric. So it's just as if we're sewing two dresses. So make sure you're aligning the notches where you've notched. Make sure it's well aligned. You give this a nice press. We're going to sew this. We're merging the breast cup to the fabric. It's just a stitch to hold it together. You do the same for the left breast cup. So this for the right and the left. So this is what we have. You can see how neat it is. We're going to be arranging it how we're going to sew it. So these are the breast cups. What we want to do now is to merge the breast cup to the body of the front panel, like so. So you're going to be sewing it like that, like I just indicated. We'll be doing the other side as well. So make sure that the darts line is aligned with the darts line of the front panel. Make sure it's well aligned. So that's how you should pin it and start sewing from that darts upwards and sideways. So let's go to the machine. So I'm sewing from the dart area. I'm sewing upwards. So we're doing the other one. And so this is what we have. So what you want to do next is to top stitch the sewing allowance beneath. Make sure the sewing allowance is facing down, downwards. So you're going to be sewing like that, just like I'm indicating. What we are sewing right now, we're creating a room for the boning. There's going to be an under wire boning that we're going to put, and this is it. We're going to insert it into this channel. So we'll be doing for the left side as well. So this is what we're doing. We'll be inserting one to the left and one to the right. You want to pass it in gently. Yeah, so keep going till you get to the top part. You can see it's making it to stand. You can see that the left side now is standing than the right side. So we're inserting the right side as well. So this is just to give the breast cup some form of lift. So, and you can see the darts are well aligned, and that's exactly what you want to do. So for the strap, the shoulder strap, I've drafted it and I've matched the shoulder line, the shoulder slant together with a paper tape. So now you measure from the back panel, just like the way I'm doing, and you measure to the front. Depending on what you have, you want to add sewing allowances to it and the exact width of strap that you want. So now you're also going to cut an interfacing for that, and you're going to iron it together. We'll go to the machine to sew it like so. We'll be sewing one edge of the strap and we'll turn it inside out. We're going to sew the other strap as well. So about 1/2 inch I give for the sewing allowance. So you trim off the excess sewing allowance. You trim it off so that you can have a bit of allowance to turn it inside out, and you seal one of the edges. So what I usually like to do is to use my screwdriver to turn it inside out. You can use whatever is comfortable with you. So I'm using my screwdriver and I'm just turning it inside out. So that's exactly what you want to do, and you want to give it a nice press. There's this thing about ironing. Each time you make a stitch, you iron. At the end of the day, your dress will look very neat. So we're going to be stitching the strap to the front part of this dress, like so. And so we've attached the strap of the front. Now you are going to join the back panel to the side back panel to the side of the front panel, like so. We're going to stitch it, and we're going to be using the sewing allowance we gave when we were drafting the pattern. So that's exactly what you want to do. So I gave about 1 inch. I gave 1 inch. So that's what I'm sewing 1 inch sewing allowance at the edge. And I'll be doing that for the left and the right side. So now we have our back panels attached to the front panel. So we're going to be using this strap to attach it to the back panel, like so. So you don't want it to twist. So make sure you get this part right. You bring it downwards and check it to see if it's well aligned. You can see I'm going to turn it and make sure it is well aligned, and position it at where you've notched at the back panel. I'm going to make a stitch on those points as well. Now I have stitched the strap to the front panel and the back panel. Next is to go and sew our lining, just like we did for the main fabric. Make sure the dart is well aligned. So now we need to attach the back lining to the side of the front. This is basically what we did for the main fabric. You are stitching 1 inch sewing allowance at the sides. And here we have our stitch. We've made the stitch already. So the next thing we want to do is to cut our plastic bones, for the dart area. So we have 4 darts here, 2 darts at the front and 2 darts at the back. So we're making sure that we give 1/2 inch allowance at the top and the bottom. You don't want it to, hurt you. So you can use the paper tape to cover the tips of the plastic bones. But I've taken it to the fire and I've melted the tips of the top and the bottom. Whichever one you want to use, it's cool. So next thing we want to do is to cut straps, bias straps. And these bias straps will be used to form a casing for our plastic bones, because we'll be attaching our plastic bones to the lining of the dress. What you want to do is to fold your bias this way, in this manner, and then you're going to make a stitch on it. And I have done that already. I made a stitch on the bias straps, and we'll be taking it to the machine to attach it to the dart areas. I'm attaching to one side of the darts. Then I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to cut the excess off, and then I would fold it the other way, like so. Just do exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to fold it to the other way, and I'll make a top stitch, just to create that casing, that room where the plastic bones will pass through. There are different ways to do this, but I've decided to use this method. The next thing you want to do to make it relax, I've flipped the lining to the good face, and I'm going to be making a top stitch as well on the other side. You can see it, sliding through easily. Doing that for the back dart as well. Next thing we want to do now is to align the lining of the upper part of this dress to the main fabric. And you want to be using your pins to hold it down at the top area, like so. Make sure the strap is inserted in between the lining and the fabric. So the good face of the lining and the good face of the fabric, they are facing each other, while the bad face are at the outer area. So you want to pin it, you want it to be well aligned. So I'm aligning the top parts like so, and I'm making a stitch on that area. So let's go to our machine. So measure the sewing allowance you gave initially. I gave half an inch, and that's what I'll be sewing at the top area. That's exactly what you want to do as well. Make sure you don't go beyond the sewing allowance you gave when you were drafting the pattern. You can see that the top part has been sewn. Use your hemming gum to make it to relax so that the lining will not be popping out like this when you wear the dress. So you open where you just made a stitch on, you open it, and you want to attach the hemming gum to that area. So you'll be attaching it to the lining part. So you can see I have made a stitch using the hemming gum to stitch on the lining part, and then I'm going to be flipping it over, and I'll take it to my ironing board to iron it like so that it's going to relax. So what that hemming gum will do is to just keep it secured, and you can see how neat it is after I have ironed it. So now the next thing we need to do is to attach the bottom of this dress, which is the flare. So I would have made a video, I'll be making a separate video on how to cut a flare. And so I had cut it out of camera. So watch out for any video I'll be uploading on how to cut a flare. So now what you want to do is to position the flare bottom, aligning it exactly how the shape is at the top area. And so because we'll be gathering the bottom part, I've made it excess. I've made the width of the waist area of the flare excess. So we need to gather it. We're making a straight stitch or that area I am indicating on. 2 double stitch and we'll gather it together. So and we'll come and attach it to align with the top part. So you can see what I'm doing now, making the first stitch, just a straight stitch basically. So this is it. I'm going to make sure that there's excess thread at the edge. You cut it off and then you make another stitch just beside the first stitch you made. Just to give it so that when you're gathering it, the thread might easily cut, but when it's double, it gives it makes it a bit more firm. Now I'll be gathering it. So you pick the top threads. So you have double 2 threads at the bottom and 2 threads at the top. So what you want to do is to pick the 2 top threads, and you draw. As you're drawing the thread, you're drawing the fabric to the left side until you get the width of waist measurement you have at the top part. So if, for example, the waist is 26, you want to gather the fabric to 26 inches width. Also, you have to consider the zip allowance, which is 1 inch on both sides. So that will be like 28 in total. For example, this exact part I am holding is the V shape. So you want the V shape to align well. So you use your pin to secure that area well, and you make a stitch from the left side to the right side. So that's exactly what we'll be doing now. And if you notice, I'll be sewing on the top part of the fabric, not on the gathered parts, because I don't want the gathered part to obstruct my footer. So you want to sew 1/2 inch, because that's what we gave when we're drafting the pattern. You want to sew 1/2 inch to the waist area. Now we're approaching the V shape, and there's something you need to do there so that you get the sharp V sewing at that point. So when you get to that point, make sure that your footer is raised, but your needle is inserted, is still in the fabric. I mean at the exact point of the V. Look closely, you can see that my needle is inserted is still inserted in the fabric, and I am just turning it, I'm just positioning it the way I want to sew. But the footer is raised up, but the needle is still in the fabric. So you want to make sure that that needle is in the fabric, not out of the fabric. So you continue sewing. Once you align well, make sure that the gathers is well aligned at the tip of the upper parts. So just keep sewing to the other edge, that's the other zipper area, like so. So now you'll be top stitching where you just sewed. Now you have to turn it to the good face and make sure that the sewing allowance under is facing up, not downward. So I'm just top stitching, and I'll be doing exactly the same thing at that V area. I'll make sure my needle is in the fabric and my footer is raised up, because I want the stitch to show, to reveal, to make the V obvious. So you want to do the same thing. Make sure the needle is inserted in the fabric and you raise the footer, and you can now turn the fabric the right way it should be. You can now keep your footer down, and then you keep sewing with your needle still inserted in the fabric. So you keep stitching, and make sure that you're observing that the sewing allowance at the bottom is raised upwards, facing up, not facing down. So So now it's time to sew in our invisible zip, and I've switched my footer to an invisible zip footer, as you can see. So if you have one, it will be good for you to do. It makes your sewing way neater and very smooth and very easy to install. So now we're going to be stitching one side of the invisible zip, and you'll be positioning your zip like so. You sew it, aligning it with the sewing allowance you gave for the zip allowance. So now I'm sewing this, making sure that the zip is aligned, the teeth of the zip is aligned on that sewing allowance. So just do exactly what you see me doing. I'll sew it right to the end of the zip with the same sewing allowance, with the same zip sewing allowance. I'm aligning the waist area equally. You don't want one side of the waist to be higher than the other side, the left side. So make sure the left and the right side are well aligned, using your pin to secure it. And so you keep aligning. See, I've notched this area and I notched here. This is just a guide to make my sewing look like the way I want it to appear. So I gave 1 inch, and that's what I'm marking. You should do well to always, follow your sewing allowance, so you don't sew a measurement that is below or above the measurements you've taken. So now make sure that that chalk is aligned well. And then for this top part, I am also measuring 1 inch because I want everything to be equal. And then I'll be marking, using my chalk to mark the other side of the zip like so that they are well aligned. Now I'm aligning the top part of the zip. You can see I want it to be equal. I don't want one side to be above, the zip to be above. So I want the chalk to be aligned at exactly the top of the zip. That's exactly what you should be doing. Use your pin to secure it. And then we can open up the zip, to give us room to sew in the other side. So now when you open up the zip, you switch your invisible zip footer to the other side, because it usually has 2 grooves for the left and the right side. Next thing you want to do, you want to zip it up, and you can see that the waist area is aligned equally, the left and the right. That's exactly what you want to do. So we need to seal up the bottom of the remaining parts to the bottom of the dress, the hem of the dress. So you hold it in just exactly the way I'm doing, and you turn it inside out, and you're going to make a stitch at that area. So for a better view, you use your pin to hold it down to the end of the dress. You can see this is the end of the dress. So I'll just use my pin to secure it and, keep the zip away, because I don't want the zip to obstruct the stitch I want to make now. have to change my footer to a different footer. I'll be using this particular footer. It's also a zip footer, but a different kind of zip footer. If you have this, it's good. Or if you don't, you can use the normal footer, the normal straight stitch footer. You can use that, but I always prefer to use this. So position your fabric at that area of the footer, and you make a stitch from where you ended the stitch of the zip. So you want to continue from that part, but mind you, you're not sewing exactly on that stitch, and you'll be sewing right from that place downwards to the hem of the dress. So look at, that's the hem. So I'm going to use my pin to hold it together, and I'll also use my pin to hold this part together so that the zip doesn't come in the way of my stitch. There's something we need to do here. We need to insert this zip in between this lining and the dress. So because we can't leave it this way, so I have to open up that area a bit so that I have room. Now I've opened it up, as you can see, and I've inserted my zip in between the lining and the fabric, and I'll be sewing the zip on the main fabric first. I have to chain my footer to this invisible zip footer. Now you can see what we have here. So we can actually do it in two ways. We can stitch it the way we did before, or we can just top stitch it. So I'll be top stitching just to make the work faster and easier. So I'm top stitching, and I'll be doing that for the other side of the zip. You can see neat, it's still neat. Yeah, so I have to give this a neat press. So this is how it's going to be. You're going to fold it this way and this way, but we're going to come to that later. This is how the lining will be. But doing the other part of the zip, just exactly what we did just now. What we're doing now, we're using the bias straps that we cut out initially to seal the edges of the zip allowance. Why we're doing this is because we can actually go use our serger. I prefer to pipe it, so do well to use whichever method you want to use. I'm going to be using my needle to tack. I have tacked the lining to the zip area. And I'll be tacking this waist area as well. And then the hemming part, I have already folded the bottom of this dress because the video is too long already. So I did that off camera. So I'm going to be showing you how I tacked So just follow what I'm doing. So I'm putting the needle into the lining and I would pass it through the lining. So I'll make a video on that if I get lots of requests. You can see how neat it looks. So I majorly prefer to tack like this because it makes the work really neat. And you can see how I did the bottom. I opened it up. I did not fold it to one side. So I did left and right. So this is the final look of our dress, and yeah, it's so beautiful. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. YouTube will recommend this to other people when you like the video. And do well to subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel, and also turn on your notification bell so you get to see videos like this. Thank you for watching. Stay blessed.